Hey guys, it's Shiny here. Today I've decided to try something new for my channel. This may or may not be a weekly thing due to me being busy with school and other stuff, but I hope to have an episode upload at least once every 2 weeks, if not at least once every week, or once every month, who knows. I've decided to call this series OC Thursday because I'm very creative, apparently. This is going to be a series where I record a speed paint and talk about an OC that either you guys decide on or I choose randomly because I think it would be a good idea. And yeah, so with that said, let's just jump right in. So this week I've decided to talk about my main OC, Shiny, due to her being most of what my channel is about. She's obviously my channel mascot, I guess you could say, and she represents me as a whole, and I have developed an entire story for her based off of my life experiences. So before I talk about the important bits of her story, I've decided to go into her personality a slight bit and discuss like why she has the markings that she does and the coloring, etc. Because I have a specific reason on why the cats in this specific world / universe have the colors that they do. So the main reason why their markings are specific colors is due to their personalities. I've gotten into this whole thing where I've decided that their marking color determines their personality, and this is from like the moment they're born. So as soon as a kit is born in this world, the parents are able to identify how their personality is going to be and how they can use this as good or bad and determine whether, like their child is going to do good in the world, etc. And so with Shiny's markings, she's obviously like a light silver gray as her main coat color, with purple markings and her long purple hair. So I want to address that her hair represents like her shyness and her wanting to, not be the center of attention. Usually when she meets new people, she hides behind her hair and she's very quiet, which is something to do with her personality to begin with. So she is a very sensitive soul, and due to this she has a very short temper. So when she's being picked on, instead of crying, she will burst out with anger and will not hesitate to say what's on her mind. This has obviously gotten her in trouble many times, but yeah, whatever. Her feelings affect most of her decisions and actions due to this situation. She gets herself in trouble a lot because of her sudden outbursts, and she was bullied as a kid, so she has developed kind of like a barrier with that anger that she has built up. She's extremely introverted, obviously, but this has turned her into a gentle and quiet person, I guess you could say. She can usually be very generous at times, yet selfish at the same time. It honestly depends on the situation. If it involves food, she's very selfish. She loves food more than she loves other people or cats or whatever you want to call them. She's very shy with a slight bit of social anxiety. But this can often confuse others, because when she's seen with her friends, she can come off as very obnoxious. Because when she's with her friends, she's comfortable, she's happy, she's excited, she's ready for anything. Speaking of her friends and how she is, she would take a bullet for them any day. She's she's usually very quick-witted. She's sarcastic. Due to her trying to please those around her, she ends up getting hurt a lot. Usually ends with friends either, leaving her, using her, etc. And so, yeah, that's basically it. So, getting into her main storyline, Shiny was born surrounded by family warmth and hatred. Her father was someone who was bitter, filled with anger and resentment, while the rest of her family from her mother's side despised him and how he treated her mother. Her parents were named Minty and Soot, due to her mother having these mint green markings and Soot kind of being a really dark gray. Her mother is actually just pure white with these mint markings, while Soot is a dark gray with dark blue markings, which is why Shiny's main co-color is a light gray. Due to how Soot treated Minty, she eventually gained up the courage to leave him, and she moved in with her parents, taking Shiny with her. She made arrangements to have it so Soot could have Shiny every 2 weeks. And after a while, Minty eventually found a new mate and went to live with him, once again bringing Shiny with her. Shiny obviously found it awkward to have her, her stepfather around while her father was picking her up for the weekends that he had her. He'd have her every second weekend. And yes, in this world they do know what the days of the week are, etc. Months and stuff like that. So whenever he took her home with him, he would fill her mind with false information about her mother, and this made her very confused and angry. And so when school started, she began getting bullied, and as I mentioned before in her personality, instead of showing her hurt, she would often just burst out with anger and say things that she shouldn't. And the teachers in this school, it wasn't actually a school, it's just in a forest type area where they teach kids and stuff. Basically a school without the building. So they tried sending her to a school counselor, wellness worker, whatever you want to call it. And so due to this, it helped a little bit. Like she was able to get her anger out in a healthy way without trying to kill anyone. But due to all this anger that had built up over time, she eventually realized that she had a demon within her that fed off this negative energy. Now, it took her a while to figure this out because it wasn't obvious at first, right? Like, she would have dreams about her killing those that did her wrong, like the bullies in her school, and she would wake up in the morning, arrive to school, and find out that they were actually murdered. And after a while, she eventually realized, oh shoot, I think I am the one that actually murdered them. But she's usually unconscious at the times, and it appears as a dream, but she sees through the eyes of the demon, who is known as Shade. And that's basically it for the school. So since Shiny is based off of me, I have decided that she is bisexual. Her first relationship was with another female who was a tad bit older than she was. However, the relationship was complicated as her girlfriend decided that it was okay for the two of them to also have a boyfriend, which then led to a lot of jealousy problems once Shiny began having feelings for other Toms. One of which her girlfriend actually snatched from her, and this led to her becoming very angry and resentful. but she eventually fell for another Tom who she met through a friend. And things were okay for a while, perfectly fine. Until one day she had enough of her girlfriend sneaking off with a different Tom every night. And so she quickly put an end to it and let Shade do her thing. And that night, her girlfriend and the Tom she was with were both dead in the morning. And so, soon after that, about maybe a few months later, her grandfather died. And after that, right after her first birthday, I believe, because I'm still going by, they still live about the same. They age differently than humans, but at the same time they live about the same length as normal cats do, but they still celebrate birthdays, etc. Just things are different. I don't know how to explain it. But her grandfather died, and then a few months later, her family's guard dog, as I've decided to call her, died as well they both died of old age. And so this led her to being very angry and upset and depressed, etc. And the demon fed off this energy, obviously, making Shade much stronger and more capable of taking over Shiny's body and killing those that hurt her. Surprisingly enough, the first Tom that she met actually was never murdered by Shade, due to Shiny having enough willpower to not kill him after he left her, due to her being so miserable. She found someone else soon after, and he introduced her to his friends, who eventually became known as Dream Clan. Their leader, Lilystar, renamed her to Shiny Stream due to her purple markings seeming like a stream, especially the purple belly. He also renamed the others in the group, but however, the problem is with this clan is that it fell apart very quickly due to it being so tiny with so few cats. Shiny's current boyfriend had left the clan due to his feelings disappearing. She was once again left heartbroken, but by this time, one of her friends in the clan, Pine Stripe, who was also the deputy, had feelings for her, and she, as much as she wanted to, she had troubles actually returning these feelings despite clearly having them. But she refused to be with him due to a gut feeling that she had. She then found out that Lilystar had become very fond of her, and he renamed her as the deputy of Dream Clan. And with the help of her friend Shadow, they found out that he actually had feelings for her as well. And this led to her confessing her love, and they soon became a thing. She had to choose between Lilystar and Pine Stripe, which was a very difficult decision. Obviously, Pine Stripe was very upset with her decision in the end, and he soon disappeared for a long time. And the clan eventually just fell apart after their medicine cat had left them. They all resorted back to their normal names. Pine Stripe came back. Obviously, he came back as Pine. And Shiny felt the need to end things with Zero due to the stress he was causing her. And then once things had ended, she kind of figured, you know what, I'll see what happens, I'll see what happens with Pine. And she tried to return the feelings, but she soon realized that they just weren't there. and he was kind of being an ass towards her anyways, so that didn't really help her situation. She did find another Tom, though, who, after a few months of her, telling him to wait because she wasn't ready for another relationship, he eventually found someone new. And so, after that happened, she once again tried to return to Pine, but again, the feelings just weren't there. So, after that happened, Pine eventually turned his back on her and just turned on her, and she realized how toxic this really was, and she just said, you know what, fine, I'll leave, that's fine. And so she did, and she returned to her best friend Shadow, who I haven't mentioned at all, but she's been there this entire time. She's just there trying to tell her, you know what, like, you need to let some of these people go and stuff like that. And so she returned to Shadow and her group of friends, and there she found a Tom named Rowan, who eventually began to have feelings for her as well. And after a while of trying to push this aside, she eventually realized that she returned these feelings. And they, after a long, long time, they eventually did become a couple. And to this day, in the story, she still hangs out with the group. She hasn't really left them at all, to be honest. And she lives happily with them and Rowan. And with the entire demon thing, it hasn't been fully developed yet. I know that at some point in the story, Shadow does kill Shade, but I haven't really decided when. So, yeah. So that was basically a summary of Shiny's life. I tried to have as much in this as possible without this video being 2 hours long. It's already been too long. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will hopefully see everyone next week.